Southwest Airlines is known for several of its rare offerings, including free baggage, its point-to-point route network, and its tendency to only sell tickets directly through its own channels. Another of these unique to Southwest features is the airline's policy of unallocated seat assignments, what it calls open seating. Southwest has stuck with this model since its beginnings. Why is this? Let's examine a few reasons. Firstly, this feature has been with the airline since its beginnings in the 1970s, and the Firstly, this feature has been with the airline since its beginnings in the 1970s, and the concept was fairly unique even then. The idea fit well with Southwest's relatively egalitarian ticketing model. With no first class or business class cabin, all passengers sat and still do sit in the same sort of seats, eat the same snacks, and receive the same in flight experience. Seats were quote unquote assigned merely in the order passengers showed up to the gate and picked a seat to sit down in. Secondly, the process results in faster boarding times. Over time, according to the airline, multiple studies proved that its unallocated seating model improved boarding times. Faster boarding generally contributes to more on-time departures and ultimately cost savings. The airline claims this translates into cheaper prices for tickets. Although the boarding process looks somewhat different today from when it started, the fundamental concept has remained in place. The company seriously considered switching to assigned seating in 2006, even testing the concept on 200 flights from San Diego and later from San Antonio. These tests revealed that boarding times increased by between 1 and 4 minutes when assigned seating was utilized. Tests did lead to some of the changes that are now standard parts of the boarding experience for Southwest passengers. These included getting rid of a first come, first serve approach in favor of a group boarding method. Finally, there are still monetization opportunities. Today, boarding groups are generally assigned based on when passengers check in for their flight. Passengers have the option of purchasing upgraded boarding status, which currently starts at $30 per segment per passenger and allows them to board in the first group. Aside from upgraded boarding, passengers can also purchase an early bird check-in option that automatically checks passengers in prior to the standard 24-hour check-in available to all other passengers. While this does not guarantee those passengers group A1 to A15 boarding status, it will bump them up as far to the front of the line as possible behind any upgraded boarding passengers. Additionally, those who hold a Southwest Priority Card or a Southwest Performance Card are usually eligible for a specific number of early bird check-ins and upgraded boardings annually. Despite the airline's previous decision to keep unassigned seating following the 2006 trials, the airline's new CEO, Robert Jordan, said that the airline might still eventually switch to an assigned seating model, though not right away. But what do you think of Southwest's approach to seating? Let us know by leaving a comment. In The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, says it welcomes quote unquote scrutiny following a recent scathing report from the New York Times that states airline close calls happen far more than previously known. The agency responded to the Times report on Monday, August 21st, highlighting air travel safety in the US. This news follows multiple near-miss incidents reported this year, including one of the most recent events involving American Airlines and Spirit Airlines aircraft at Boston Logan International Airport. Earlier this year, the FAA even hosted a safety summit to discuss the necessary action to decrease potentially fatal occurrences. In a statement, the agency said it is pursuing a goal of zero near-miss incidents. The US aviation system is the safest in the world, but one close call is one too many. The FAA and the aviation community are pursuing a goal of zero serious close calls, a commitment from the Safety Summit in March. The same approach virtually eliminated the risk of fatalities aboard US commercial airlines. Since 2009, US carriers have transported more than the world's population with no fatal crashes. Several layers of safety have been implemented to protect flights around the country, such as traffic collision avoidance systems being equipped on commercial aircraft, surface safety technology at the nation's largest airports, and robust procedures, according to the agency. On August 21st, the New York Times published a startling report revealing that near misses involving US commercial airlines happen multiple times a week on average. Last month, at least 46 close calls reportedly occurred. According to the report, the incidents were highlighted in preliminary FAA safety reports but were not publicly shared. Despite not being disclosed openly, the agency said that information on all incidents is published on its website. Data on runway incursions were also shared by the FAA, showing a steady decline in the occurrences since the pandemic. The administration stated, the FAA maintains extremely conservative standards for keeping aircraft safely separated. Safety experts follow up on all events, even those in which no collision was imminent or even possible, and evaluate them for safety risks. As planes are taking to the skies with the industry roaring back from the pandemic, the FAA has also been criticized for the shortage of air traffic controllers. In April, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and JetBlue Airways indicated that flights would be reduced in the New York City area during the summer months due to the shortage. The FAA said ATC and pilots, quote unquote, all play critical roles in the industry's safety, and noted that 1,500 controllers have been hired this year, which is in addition to more than 2,600 that are placed at, quote, various levels of training at air traffic facilities across the country. The new FAA National Airspace System Safety Review Team is currently examining ways to improve the situation and is expected to complete its work by October. In the meantime, the agency said it welcomes the added attention. We welcome scrutiny and look forward to the recommendations from the FAA's Independent Safety Review Team this fall. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying
Gosh, that's why I didn't add myself to the screen. Okay, so I guess you guys haven't seen me this whole time. Okay. But yeah, that's it's not good. I certainly hope that we're able to solve this problem, get to zero near misses soon. So the next thing that we are going to talk about, wow, I really haven't been on the camera the whole time. Okay. All right. So this video is called Hurry Up and Wait, Why Passengers Are Told to Get to Airports Hours Before their flights. This is an interesting title because, I think all my life, that's how we've traveled as my family is we get to the airport 2 hours before the flight departs. And honestly, for good reason. Like I remember, being in LAX, there are crazy lines for security. And if you don't get there in a good hour, you're screwed. So I'm interested to hear what they have to say. I think it's good to get to your airport hours before your flight, and because of security, honestly, and any complications that may happen with, let's say you're planning to get to the airport 2 hours before, but then there's an accident. Now you might make it to the airport 1 hour before, and you'll still make your flight in good timing, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with getting to the airport hours before a flight. Now, that being said, I love to get to flights out of LAX 3 hours before my flight departs, because I get to go through the international terminal and look at all the planes that are there. So yeah, we'll see what this video says.
With heightened security amid surging air travel demand, why is it so important that we get to the airport long before our flight departs? Nearly all airlines in the United States will recommend that you get to the airport at least 2 hours before a domestic flight and 3 hours before an international flight. There is no general rule, and many factors can determine how long you must arrive at the airport before.
Yeah, and I think for international flights, it's worse because you got to go through customs, and you don't know how. I've never traveled international, so I don't know what customs is like. But I can imagine it can take a long time and add an extra hour to your travels. So I think this is reasonable.
Was before an international flight. There is no general rule, and many factors can determine how long you must arrive at the airport before your flight. Despite embracing air travel over the rail travel of developed nations, the United States has some of the worst airports in the world. Poorly designed, endless wait times, and an overall sense of chaos sum up many of the United States' lives.
I didn't know that this was the case. I don't know. We'll have to go outside the country and see how an airport is operated there to see if this is true.
Largest airports. In Europe, you're more likely to find a dedicated rail or metro line from the city center to the airport. In the USA, it'll depend upon the city you are departing from.
Yeah.
You'll likely have to get to the airport by car. The time of day will dictate when you must leave home in order to combat the traffic and arrive at the airport in plenty of time for your flight.
Mm-hmm.
Once you arrive at the airport, assuming you have some extra luggage, you must first check in. If you want to avoid risking waiting in a long line, check to see when the check-in desks for your flight open and be there early. An increase in the number of people traveling will strain the Transportation Security Administration officers that work the security checks. On average, many passengers will have to wait in line for between 20 and 30 minutes before they clear security. With the factors we mentioned taken into consideration, the general rule is that you need to be at the airport 2 hours before the departure of your domestic flight. Providing the airport is not crowded, this should give you plenty of time to check in, pass through security, and make it to the gate. Typically, boarding begins 45 minutes before departure, so be sure to arrive at the gate by that point, and you should have no problems. Sometimes,
Yeah, so from that perspective, 2 hours is good because there's so many factors that you have to play into to get to a flight. Not to mention that, like, if you if your flight is listed to depart at 6 a.m. and you get to your gate at 6 a.m., you're not getting on that flight. Boarding starts 45 minutes around, or 30 minutes sometimes before departure. So yeah, 2 hours is good for domestic flights. Now, I think the narrator only said domestic flights because they're about to talk about international flights. So let's hear it.
the airline you are traveling with will email you telling you to arrive extra early. As a general rule, arriving at the airport at least 3 hours before an overseas flight is the way to go. If traveling with children or have a need for special assistance, you'll need to factor this into your arrival time at the airport as well. To make your trip less stressful, consider staying at an airport hotel overnight before your...
Is this the actual Emirates lounge? This looks amazing. Or I've never been in an airport lounge in general, but I guess because like they got like the guy in a suit and he's like looking at like a menu with like expensive stuff. It like, looks all that cool, but like, yeah, this looks like a really cool lounge. Now, also, I know that the Star Alliance Lounge in LAX, now they've made it to where like you can pay to get in there if you've like traveled on a flight with a Star Alliance airline. So I'd want to try that out sometime, definitely. So yeah.
departure. You'll wake up fresh and be able to walk or take a complimentary bus to the terminal. Another great idea is to pay to access an airport lounge. You can arrive early, have something to eat and drink, and relax before the flight. Something that can make the start of your trip even better. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, simple fly for the flight.
But I mean, like, look at this. Like, this looks like top notch. So it just motivates me to continue to work harder at everything I do in life. And I hope it does the same for you. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Excuse me. I apologize for not for forgetting to add myself, the one like speaking and everything, to the stream. But I hope you guys enjoy the video. Love y'all. Take care. Have a good night or day, wherever you are. I'm filming this at the night, so I said have a good night instinctively. But yeah,